So I'm going to hand you over to Duncan, who is the moderator for this panel. He will introduce himself and the panel. Thank you very much, Duncan, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. So yes, as Johnny said, this panel is really wrapping up the first day of the conference, and what we would like to discuss over the next 40 minutes or so is what are people actually doing with blockchain? And so think of this as blockchain in action, being used in anger, let's say. And so in order to start the discussion off, I would like to invite each of the panelists just to introduce themselves. And of course, I said to them, don't forget to say who you are and where you're from. And of course, I promptly forgot to say that myself. So hi, I'm Duncan Johnston-Watt. I'm the moderator today and one of the sponsors of the event. And I would just say, hats off to Johnny for pulling this off, because it's actually harder, I actually feel, to do an event like this than it is to actually all rock up at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange for a couple of days. So thank you, Johnny. So with those introductions on my side over, Ruth, would you like to start and introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Duncan. So happy to be here today. My name is Ruth Lotan. I lead the sales and marketing at Clear Blockchain Technologies, who is an enterprise blockchain company doing most the work around wholesale contracts in the telecom sector. I'll be happy to talk about it more.
Thank you very much. Ziv, over to you, please.
Hi, hello. My name is Ziv Keiman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Simetria. Simetria is a digital securities market out of Israel. We use blockchain technology to represent securities and settle transactions. And I'm very happy to be with you today and looking forward for interesting discussion.
Excellent. Likewise. Tony, please go ahead.
Thank you, Duncan. Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Sun. I'm dialing in from China. I'm part of the blockchain team at Ant Group. So Ant Group has built a proprietary blockchain platform that's consortium permissioned, and we've had use cases in quite a few different areas. And currently, I am focusing on a blockchain trade finance platform called Trustful. It's a pleasure to be with everyone today.
Excellent, thank you, Tony. And Jean-Marc.
Thank you, Duncan. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jean-Marc Eyssautier. I'm the CEO of LiquidShare. LiquidShare is basically a French consortium of market infrastructure and banks and asset manager. And we are here to serve mostly the post-market industry using blockchain DLT technology.
Thank you. And just picking up on that last point, Jean-Marc. So essentially, you are I guess the operational company of a consortium. Is that correct? Is that the role?
Yeah, absolutely. We are the operational arm of this group of shareholders who want to develop those technology on the European market.
So what's interesting about that is, I mean, the topic is, what are we actually doing with blockchain? I actually didn't want to talk about blockchain. I was keen to avoid that, which might seem a bit of a strange thing to say, but one of the things that we all discussed when we were preparing for this was, how the world has evolved and how we're now very much focused on the smart contracts layer, as it's sometimes called. And so I know that's something, Jean-Marc, that you've been heavily involved with, or LiquidShare has specifically been heavily involved with. Ruth, what about you?
So yes, exactly. The notion that you've just delivered using smart contracts for something beyond the basic financial applications that it started off with. We are using that in a much wider context. So we took the essence of having a context for a transaction or a set of commands to trigger a transaction in a smart contract and delivered it for more complicated contracts between enterprises that do have a trust issue between them when they calculate what they owe each other at the end of each month or every financial year. Where we are now best established is in the telecom industry. So we're working with the likes of Verizon and Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom and Telefonica, who are the last two are also part of our investors. And we're working on complicated contracts for roaming services, international calls, fiber. So anything that has to do with complicated sharing of infrastructure between telecom companies who are highly dependent on each other to deliver their core services. And we find that there's a very big interest in that right now in this industry specifically because of a heightened need for more cooperation and more commercial contracts for sharing in the 5G era, for edge compute services, for IoT related services. And also, as we kind of discussed between the panelists, who are a lot of them are doing some very interesting work in finance applications, I think that enterprises now see a chance to convergence between financial applications that are well developed already and between some more novel applications like ours, combining at a certain point.
Ziv, what about Simetria? Because I guess you're a brand new born on a blockchain, shall we say? Company?
Yeah. So, to understand Simetria, you have to go back, step back. And I'll talk a bit about my background. Unlike the tech entrepreneurs, my background is law. I'm a lawyer, been in many years. For the past 4 years, I've been consulting mostly on DLT project and securities token, the cross-section between securities and blockchain technology. I used to consult eToro platform for about 2 years, and then I joined Onera. Onera is a global platform, a network that connects large financial institutions from around the globe on a single DLT network, which is open source. And the idea to create Simetria basically came from the work that I did with Onera. We had a chance to come here to Israel and present our project in the annual conference of the Israeli Securities Authority. And then we learned there's an opportunity here for a marketplace, for a digital marketplace, and the regulators are very supportive of our efforts. So created Simetria with the idea that we could take Israeli assets that are now very valuable and market them outside of Israel. And actually, the first product that we built is for the secondary market. We allow growth companies to meet liquidity even before IPO or large liquidity event, and to interact very discreetly with a crowd of funds and qualified investors, and then actually execute the deal on our platform when we do delivery versus payment, a very simple way of executing a transaction via smart contract, which eliminates a lot of the hassle that you'll find in a normal exchange, where you have like a separate entity which involves in the settlement, clearing, and netting processes that basically take a few days.
So I guess that's operating, would you say, disrupting or innovating in a sort of relatively well-established market structure, albeit being encouraged by the Israeli Securities Authority to experiment in that space and I guess create additional liquidity. And what about
just saying that even before we were granted with the official license, they've granted us with a non-action letter, basically allowing us to start and operating. And they went out with a statement after we got the non-action letter, the pre-ruling, basically saying that they believe in the future of financial market, that the future of financial market will be on DLT. So that's that's a really good
very bold statement. For
very bold statement. You have to give it out to them. The non-action letter that we received was precedent, and there's nothing like that was received before. And I think they are moving in the right direction, and like us, they believe the future of financial markets is on DLT technology.
In which case, and Tony, maybe I can direct this at you and then Jean-Marc. With all of this innovation happening kind of at more or closer to the business level, where do you see the sort of challenges? Are they around interoperability? Are they around, because obviously with Trustful, you're creating a network of ultimately networks, aren't you?
Yeah, thanks, Duncan. There are many challenges of implementing blockchain in the different use cases. Although on-chain as a whole, we have about 50 plus applications alive, in production already. But there are still a few things that are sort of barriers. One is because we are in the consortium and enterprise world, so we're not in the public chain world, and it's hard to leave everything to the blockchain. Right? In the public chain world, people say code is law, but here in what we do is although on top of blockchain, how the data is transferred and how the collaboration ways are changed, but still, then we still need to involve lawyers, and the business rules and the legal rules have to be separate from the blockchain infrastructure. So that's the one thing that we see as a challenge of really putting the trust into the network instead of building the trust on paper and legal signatures and stamps, right? So that's one. The other thing is, maybe specifically about Trustful, is building that network, right? Because the participants that we have on on-chain in any use cases will be large institutions. Right? In Trustful's case, we're connecting with some of the largest banks in the world. And all the business cases with every partner takes a tremendous amount of time. And the speed of that scale growing is slowed down. Right? So that's one of the few things we face as challenges.
So, Jean-Marc, I guess that holistic challenge is something that you guys faced from the outset, given that you were set up by a consortium of the great and the good, I guess you might say, in French and European banking.
Well, maybe I would like first to pick up about what Ziv said about DVP and also your question about interoperability. To start with the latest, although I'm not allowed to say too much about it, but
no, sure.
You may know that we are because this is public information. We are part of one of the experiments of the central bank using digital central bank money, and for sure one of the main concerns of the central bank and one of the main issues to be tackled by those experiments is certainly the question of interoperability, because there is one thing that the central banks don't want, especially the one in charge of the market where we are mostly operating, which is the ECB. They don't want to move from a market and a post-market that is using the same currency towards a fragmented system with fragmented liquidity. So interoperability is certainly one of the main challenges that we will have to address in the coming years. And the other point I would comment upon is after what Ziv said. So for sure, there are a lot of things to do using smart contracts for the DVP and settlement area. Then I would be I was about to say cautious, maybe it's not the right word, but a bit more specific. My gut feeling is that here, I don't know exactly what's the future going to be in, I don't know, 10 to 20 years. And maybe it's going to be full DLT, full smart contracts and blockchain and so on. But my feeling is that we need to start by those points where those new technology, the smart contracts, they can really bring value to the market. And the way I see things is that if there are some areas, if you are speaking of the secondary market of SMEs, the secondary market of digital assets, for sure, there's a lot of things to do. If you are dealing with the post-market of govies, of big caps, I'm not sure that's the first area to be tackled. So I think we need to have, and I'm a newcomer to this industry, but I remember what was said a few years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, and people were speaking of full disintermediation, full disruption, and it was supposed to come in a time frame that was, let's say, 2 to 3 years. And that's why I say I'm a bit cautious to that. I think things will change, but they will change if we pick the right pain points, if we pick the right business case, if we are able to deliver real value added to the market right now.
I think that's a great point. You know, you see this in other technologies quite a lot, don't you? The ebb and flow that things go to. I mean, a great example, I think, in the mobile world is mobile apps. And you know, we went for thin client forever, and now we have app stores everywhere. And so, you know, second guessing how or where technology is going to ultimately win out is really hard. I think all of us that are involved, whatever our role, whether we're sort of enabling the process or whether we're sort of at the cutting edge as the panel is in terms of implementing solutions built on a blockchain, I think that the obvious point would be that if we end up with all these different islands of functionality, not themselves capable of being wired together, then I think, you know, we've done the classic. We've solved a bunch of problems over here, but created a new set over there. I mean, you know, I sometimes think of this as if you ever try putting up a tent in a gale, in a storm, and you're sort of desperately trying to sort of hammer down each corner, and you just think you've got the final corner nailed down, and then another corner lifts up somewhere. So, you know, we ought to be better than that. So how do we address that sort of bigger picture issue? So all of you are innovating, doing great stuff, but how does it all come together? Anybody? Go on.
Okay, I'll start. I think that we are very open to the notion that once the things go ahead and develop, we'll need to be much more interoperable than we are today. So Clear is tackling this on many levels. One of them is retaining the strategy of being DLT agnostic. So we have our application running currently mostly on Ethereum and the networks that we manage for our clients. And we are also able and already developed the ability to work with Hyperledger Fabric because of client demand, and working on a third integration right now, showing how flexible the abstraction layer that we have over the DLT in order to do that, in order to deploy very easily on multiple blockchain and being even able to deliver our transactions in a cross-network environment. So this is, although we've invested in this very thoroughly, it's not really used by clients right now because the demand is not yet there, but it's something we invest in just because of the things you just said, because we don't know where things might go. The second thing that we're investing in is working with regular software solutions. So taking in data from legacy systems and being able to read and write to ledgers that are internal, that clients demand because regulatorily and compliance procedures. So that is also key and important in order to kind of navigate the way things will go in the future. And the third point that we are investing in order to stay aligned is really working with industry consortia in the industries we play a part in. So also things that are more blockchain related, like the EA, but in Hyperledger Fabric community, but also contributing to more siloed consortia like the GSMA and others that are related to the industry we play a part in.
I'm so glad you said that last and third, we're working with other people, because I think that's the essence of the truth of this, is that whether it's, as you say, GSMA, whether it's the Linux Foundation or one of its many projects, or whether it's the Industrial Internet Consortium, Interwork Alliance, EEA, you name it. The only problem I have is the perennial one that we love standards. There are so many of them. But yeah, we have to try. Tony, do you agree?
Yes, maybe I'll talk about the interoperability issue from three levels as well. So Ant-Chain is both the infrastructure provider and also a application operator. Right? So I guess we have these two different positions. I just start from the underlying platform. So Ant-Chain is we have our own protocols, we have our own consensus algorithms. So it's a infrastructure itself. On that level, we have built cross-chain technology with Hyperledger Fabric and also Quorum. So on the foundational tech level, we can have interoperability with these two different platforms. So any applications built on Ant-Chain will have the opportunity to cross-chain with the applications built on the other two platforms. So I guess maybe that's one way we are trying to sort of solve the silos. The other thing is Ant does offer a BaaS platform, so a blockchain as a service, mainly to developers and also smaller companies who do not want to run their own infrastructure on premise, rather use blockchain resources on a cloud-based platform. So besides supporting Ant-Chain itself,
I think we lost you there for a moment, Tony.
Right now, our main user base is in China. So right. Most of our Chinese developers can use these three different networks on Ant BaaS platform. So that's the second layer. And the third layer is in a lot of different applications we're using, participants can connect with APIs. Right? So they do not need to host a node that's deployed by Ant, but rather they can use API connections which are faster to build and easier and cheaper to maintain. Right? So I think maybe these are the three things how we do it.
Okay, and I think if somebody from Google, Azure, or AWS was on this panel, they'd probably say something very similar in terms of, maybe not, they don't have Ant Financial, but they would certainly say they would agree with you that there is value in offering a blockchain as a service, although that does now mean I am now relying on that service provider, which has its own challenges, shall we say, whichever cloud service provider you're talking about. I was hoping that we could sort of come back though to maybe to you, Ziv, as somebody who's been in this movie not once but several times now, and you mentioned Onera, which I remember from last year, and now this year it's Simetria. For you, what were the things, and I see Ariel is saying hi to us in the chat, but maybe this would be more of the question for him. But but maybe you can sort of outline how you said about this, because you have that when you start a company, you have that beautiful moment where you have no legacy, but you're about to create your own legacy, right? So what was your starting point? If you can just touch on it, maybe just a little.
Yeah, with us, we're a group of, very passionate people about the mission. My co-founder is the former director of currency at the Bank of Israel, a PhD who comes with a lot of knowledge and understanding of the local market and the institutions that work within the market and the regulators and so on. And we are joined by a very strong technical arm, which is Ariel, and also a product that helped us to launch the product. And the vision for us was very clear. We wanted to have a digital securities exchange out of Israel, understanding the power of Israel, the power of the tech that develops here, the numbers that are amazing. Over 55 unicorns. I read recently, which is more than all of Europe. And valuation that are very high, like 50% of all the world cybersecurity unicorns are originated in Israel. So we see Israel, for the years to come, to become like Silicon Valley of the tech industry. And in our mind, the future Silicon Valley has to have a private market that would serve this valley, allow for liquidity and secondaries transaction, and a venue where you can even raise financing, and doing it through DLT technology is just our way to do it more efficiently. And I agree with what Jean-Marc said before, that probably when we scale into a full-blown exchange, doing the type of matching engines that the NASDAQ provides, for example, then doing an on-chain settlement, at least right now, it seems like the technology is not there yet because the blockchain is still relatively slow. But with our market, the market that we're developing right now, which is more like an automated OTC market, blockchain technology plays a very important role. It allows, except for the settlement, it allows for companies to track their own equity, to automate a lot of decision making and a lot of processes that exist within the corporate world today. And we see the value that it can bring to an SMB market, that currently doesn't have any, for example, if you wanted to create like an SMB market today, you need to think about how do you do those, post trading and so on. So, for that kind of market, blockchain technology can really suit. And yeah, we're really excited about this mission. It is an early stage company, and we're very excited about what is to come.
So I would only take issue with one thing, which is I don't think you need to create Silicon Valley in Israel. I think Israel is Israel, and having been a visitor for many years since the 90s, and by the way, name checking Nadi Shalom from Cloudify, who was on a panel earlier today, who's probably at this point, won't mind me saying, he's one of the sort of the real early pioneers. There's absolutely no question that there is the skill set, the will, the drive to not just create but continue to build on what's gone before. So unashamed fan of everything that's been achieved. But I think this is what I'm hearing here is people want to solve problems, People want to, deliver value. I mean, Jean-Marc, you said that very eloquently earlier. The idea that, and maybe you can sort of revisit that, because when we were in the green room beforehand, you were saying, the origins of LiquidShare and what LiquidShare is today are quite different for exactly that reason, I guess.
Obviously, I think that, and I fully agree with what Ziv said about the various market, and there is obviously a strong need to develop this new market and to foster the development of this new market for the SMEs, SMB. There is also the possibility, and as mentioned earlier, the regulator are very supportive, and we have here in France, and I think it will come in Europe, a new regulatory and legal framework for the digitally native assets or tokens. Well, I think really the difference is that there is a realistic view about the ecosystem, and coming back to this question of disintermediation, and I will finish by one question to Ziv and also to the other panelists about their view about the position of the regulators. But I think now that at least on the European market, there's a more mature view about what the different stakeholders are bringing to the value chain. And for instance, just to illustrate, a company such as LiquidShare, we are bringing new technology. We want to bring solution. We want to bring safety and efficiency to the market. But today we're not in a position to bring risk management. We are not in a position to bring compliance management. We don't have a balance sheet that allows us to use that balance sheet for the benefit of our clients. So meaning that we certainly need to continue to work with all those intermediaries to have an efficient market. And I think for me that's the main change across the market. That's what we're bringing as new solution is considered as it is and for the value it has, and not as something that will bring a completely new world just like that, and in a few months. Maybe the question I had for Ziv and the other panelists is, as mentioned, the regulators are very supportive of the initiative. They are trying to move the regulatory framework to enhance it. One question I have, and for me it's a difficult one, is at least in the financial market, but maybe it's the same for the telecom industry or other industry, is that at some stage the regulators, they are always happy to find I would say the ultimate liable guy, the one with the deep pockets. And what's your view on how it can be applied or implemented with those new technologies? This is for me a big question mark for the future of our industry.
But can you repeat, like they're looking for who with the big pockets?
If you look deeply, if you make a thorough analysis of the regulation, whether it's risk management or compliance, I have been in my career head of risk and compliance. At some stage, you will find in the regulation that the regulators, they want to have, so to say, the ultimate culprit. And so, something goes wrong, you have to pay for it.
Is this? Would you say that the Robin Hood effect was a failure in that regard? Thinking about the lack of capital adequacy.
Yeah. Maybe in a way, I don't know, but
just.
Speaking about Robin Hood, I think the problem there originated from from the slow and cumbersome settlement process that is used today in today's market. Right, the DTCC was asking Robinhood to deposit more than it actually had, and Robinhood was forced to stop the trading. So that's that's kind of the problems of today market. And actually, both DTCC and Robinhood went out with a statement afterwards, and that the settlement has to go to T+0, and that's possible. In terms of regulation and the regulators that I've worked with, and actually I work with several. I work with the FCA in the UK. I work with the SEC in the US. And today, much of my work is with the Israeli Securities Authority. And then my thinking is that they would like to see more than the startups, the early stage startups that they are coming to them. They'd like to see institutional engagement in this new technology, and in actuality that's happening. I've spent many hours in discussions with financial institutions from Switzerland, the US, and France. SocGen, it's not secret that SocGen just did an issuance on Tezos, before that on Ethereum, before that another issuance. So they're experimenting with the use of blockchain technologies, and the more SocGens there are, and BlackRock's and Credit Suisse, UBS, and so on, that are issuing securities on the DLT, then that there would be more acceptance within regulator to approve and accept this technology. But then also we have to remember that nobody ever asked the NASDAQ which technology do they use, and not the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and the regulator doesn't have to care as long as you provide him with a framework that is operated the same way that the NASDAQ or Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, for example, would operate, in compliance with AMA laws, in view of risks, risk analysis and mitigation. So everything that applies to the to the other exchanges should apply also for this platform operating on this new technology. The technology is, it doesn't have to be something which require the law to be amended, for example, in most cases.
Yeah, I think herein lies the problem, right? So I've yet to see anybody rule that message-oriented middleware is illegal. In other words, middleware as a whole is simply accepted as a given at this point in terms of a technology stack. Do you think we are suffering of? And there was a question in the Q&A. Thank you, Zif, by the way, for answering the first one. And I think you kind of answered it in the course of the conversation. It was whether or not the regulatory authorities are holding us back. I think actually I would say the answer from the panel to that question, Nathan, was on the whole no. I think that they're being very encouraging. But I think there is this separate issue around almost is it a DLT, is it a blockchain? Somehow that raises hackles. I'm the moderator, so I'm not allowed to say very much, but I'll give you one example of this. It took us 2 goes to open a bank account because we called our company Blockchain Technology Partners Limited. We were refused point blank by one British bank who, funnily enough, a few months later invited me to address their risk management cohort about the difference between blockchain and crypto. And I said, I'd love to, but I'm really rather busy at the moment because, but I would have loved to go back to them and say, well, actually, you as a bank put up the stop sign, trying to snuff out innovation because you got hung up on a word. So, you know, I think you make a good point that if we can demonstrate that what we're doing is functionally equivalent, shouldn't that be enough without getting into the weeds?
Yeah, in the past, you know, you had all discussion about how you custody those assets, how do you custody those assets. This was the SEC went out in May 2019 with you know, with a warning to all broker dealers that custodying digital assets, and of course, digital security fell into the same. But now, my feeling, most of it resolved. You know, the SEC, the custody, you know, most of the questions that were around the space are right now resolved, and the technology is very mature. We have custody provider, Fireblocks, GK8, Curve, all those guys that, you know, make sure that what we're doing is more secure than everything else. So my feeling is that we just need to start, you know, and create using what is available now, and the regulars would not be, it would not be a hurdle. You know, I heard Esther Pierce say more than once that the future, everything going to be, all security is going to be tokenized. Former Chairman Clayton said the same. So, you know, they're not the problem.
No. And I guess that's just a timing issue, isn't it, Tony? Because, I mean, cloud had the same issue in the early days. Somehow cloud was less secure. And I guess, Ruth, you see that clearly with the work you're doing with edge computing. I mean, you know, there was a knee-jerk reaction to any new technology at one time or another, right?
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting to see the type of kind of rejections or the answers that you get from clients, and how at first it seemed complex to them, and then once you really figure out what is the core issue, you find that there's not really anything there. So for it goes for installations. Do we install our software in a cloud, not on cloud, and how we communicate between nodes, and how is that messaging needs to be, you know, compliant with the industry standards. But once you really drill down to it with clients, you find out that, like you said, there are compliance and governing laws for a lot of what we intend to do, and we just need to find how they apply to this environment, and not try and, you know, challenge and invent new laws and new ways of governing on our actions. For us, that challenge is to constantly educate and mitigate the worries and concerns of our clients, and figuring out what exactly is the need and pinpointing that. So, for instance, in network governance, in the end, we kind of, after long deliberations with the clients, found out that there are really just a few very minor things that, as an industry, they would like to control over the network, like registry, like how they vote. And that is something that you can mitigate without all the rigorous compliance boards and meetings that they usually have in order to govern those things.
Tony, how is it for you? I mean, governance, and I guess, you know, China's famous for having, you know, a blockchain services network, which is itself a network of networks, so to speak. So I know you touched on this earlier in terms of some of the work that Ant's doing, but is the regulation, the question from one of the audience was, is the regulation getting in the way? Is it helping you and Ant, or the opposite? Can you say?
Yeah, maybe. So it's a bit different in China right now, because the government is overall very encouraging when it comes to blockchain technology. Right from the very top, the Chinese government, the president and the various figures have publicly endorsed the technology, right? And companies are encouraged to utilize and blockchain technologies, and also governments in China is one of the largest buyer of blockchain technology or services, right? So from that perspective, it's very very encouraging for us, for the practitioners. But from the other side, we are not in the securities or settlement or payment space, right? So those spaces are still very much regulated heavily and with the incumbents. So I guess maybe if you see different angles, then you see different things. But overall, for what we are doing, right, the platform that we're building, we do benefit from the government's encouragement.
Interesting. Well, I think we're coming up to an hour, I think, or 50 minutes, just coming up to the top of the hour. So I'd love to carry this conversation on, and I know Johnny said, "Oh, keep going as long as you like." But on the other hand, and thank you to everybody that stayed the course. Bravo for that. But it's customary at this point for the moderator to ask some unanswerable question about where you see things in 5 years' time. I don't want to do that, but what I would like you each to do is maybe spend 30 seconds on how you see what you see as being the key challenges for you as leaders in your companies, and also perhaps comment more generally. But I'll let each one of you go, and this time in reverse order. Jean-Marc, if you're okay going first with your thoughts, please.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan. Well, basically, I would say that in 5 years' time, we should be in, well, let's call it the middle of the big change. And what I mean is that we certainly will, in the industry I'm in, so we certainly will have still some traditional way of processing the operation, and also in not only on the operational or technical side, but also under the legal framework. So, but I don't think that the change will be so quick, because this is some sort of a heavy industry with a huge investment. But I would hope that we have made a demonstration that everything that we are now starting to develop is live, is efficient, is secure, and can benefit from the proper framework.
Excellent. Tony, what about you? What do you see as the big, toughest challenge for you with what you're doing?
Maybe from an Ant Group perspective, right? Our mission and goal is to make blockchain part of the digital economy infrastructure, right? So it won't be. We don't see it as a disruption anymore. The word associated with blockchain for the past, I guess, 5 to 10 years has been disruption, but we don't see that anymore. We do see this as a complement to the existing business flows, and slight adjustments to how things are done. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a challenge. Depends on how you see it.
So your mission is not to ever say the word blockchain in 5 years from now, because it's just a given, right? Ziv, and then last word for Ruth. So Ziv, what do you see as the biggest challenge, and what excites you, I guess, as a result?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's in terms of whether we are on a way to have the financial system integrating DLT technology into it. I think it's very obvious. We have Ant financial representative also here. That they are a massive infrastructure provider in the tech and the financial space, and of course, if they're discussing blockchain technology and the way they integrate that, then the future of financial system is DLT. And in terms of challenges, I think we just need more skilled and knowledgeable personnel. I think this. And the ecosystem is too small. It grew too fast. There's not enough people that actually knows, this space, knows what they're talking about. You have to have knowledge that is both legal, that is both technical, that you have to understand what DeFi is and how DeFi operates, even if you're not actually using DeFi within your system, just in order for you to understand the model that will be operating tomorrow. So you have to have a skill set that encourage and basically relevant to a lot of things simultaneously. And there's not a lot of people that right now has this skill set. So this is the most important thing.
You got a lot of love from that comment. I don't know if you can see it going up the screen. Yeah, so Ruth, follow that.
Yeah, I just clapped to Ziv's last comment. I do agree about the challenges of talent. Maybe it's the same for everyone in tech, because I do feel that coming up on every conversation I have with managers in the field. But it's especially very, very central in our case. As we look at the challenges ahead, I think that for us, it's mostly about adoption, getting things to production rollout faster than before. And these are just a regular challenge of any enterprise company. I don't think that they are very unique to this ecosystem, and I think that's a good thing. We've surpassed the point where the conversation around blockchain is very main to our solution. I think that that's where we kind of differ from the financial applications, because it's very much about the product and what it does for settlements of commercial contracts, and not about the underlying technology for us. So that's good news. So the main challenge is adoption and getting it enterprise grade.
I love what you're doing, Ruth, if it means my roaming charges stay low. So, listen, thank you, everybody. I guess I'm not sure if Johnny's going to reappear. Yes, speaking of Johnny, here's Johnny, which is actually, wasn't there a movie about that? Didn't it star Jack Nicholson?
Here's
it's Johnny.
One flew over the cuckoo.
Johnny.
Yeah,
over to you,
Johnny. Guys, thanks so much. That was a certainly in-depth and thrilling conversation from all. We've got some real thought leaders here, and Tony, I really appreciate you joining us from China. What time is it now in China?
Is it like 7
it's almost past 9 p.m.
Oh no!
Oh, wow. Time for bed then. Thank you, Jean-Marc, as well, for your input as well, and Ruth, of course, and of course Ziv. Where's he gone?
I think Ziv had to drop off.
He had to get had to shoot. Duncan, thanks for moderating so masterly as well. That was superb. A really great discussion, and great way to end our first day. So really, thank you very much. If the audience can show their appreciation with the emojis. So thank